The Ghana Grid Company Limited, GRIDCO, has disconnected power supply to the Volta Aluminium Company Limited, VALCO, following failure of the company to settle over $30 million outstanding debt to the power transmitter. On December 3, 2019, GRIDCO stopped the streets of Accra to protest huge debt owed the company by power transmitters. The agitated staff of GRIDCO massed up at the Black Star Square to begin the protest march to the Finance Ministry and the Electricity Company of Ghana. GRIDCO's leadership has been pushing for millions of debt owed by the ECG, the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, that's NEDCO, and the Volta Aluminium Company, VALCO, to be settled. My colleague Joseph Akable is on our energy desk. He joins us in the studio with more. Akable, let's begin with the background to this GRIDCO ECG money issue.
It has raged on for years. I mean, at least within the last 4 years, where we've seen each time GRIDCO has the opportunity to speak either at their own events or at various platforms where the various power players are present. They always make a demand to these agencies like the NEDCO, the ECGs, and the rest to remind them of the fact that they owe them a lot. We are told it's more than 1.2 billion, and saying that they need that money to ensure that they're able to run. And so these are various services that GRIDCO has provided to these companies, and they are saying that these companies have failed to pay them, and so it's making it difficult for them to go about their activities. Quite recently, the agitation went a notch higher when the workers decided to abandon work at a point. They had to be talked out of that. At a point, they went to work wearing red bands, while they said they wanted their money to be paid them. Then again, another different aspect that they carried out was to decide not to resolve emergency services. And so when something happens and it's a fault outside their regular work schedule, they don't go and fix it because of the monies that they said they are owed. And on all those occasions, they urged government to intervene if possible, threatening that the last angle or the last action they will be taking will be to disconnect their power to these companies. And you know that the companies produce the power, but they need GRIDCO to transmit the power. And so that's the means of ensuring that the power gets over to the consumers. Very vital role they play in there. And so it has come as no surprise that we received that statement from GRIDCO to the effect that they've decided to terminate the power to VALCO. Okay.
Well, we'll be going through the details of the statement. We'll put the statement there for you to have a look. But Joseph, this statement talks about how the debt owed GRIDCO, which is running into billions, over $1 billion, they talk about how it's affecting their business.
In fact, they make a general statement that the decision to disconnect VALCO is part of ongoing debt collection measures to mobilize the needed funds to support its operations. It goes on to say that GRIDCO's operations have been significantly impaired due to the huge unpaid debts owed by its bulk customers, currently amounting to over 1.2 billion cedis. At its current annual general meeting in November 2019, the company announced that its network expansion efforts have been hampered due to the current financial situation. And so that explains how GRIDCO has been affected, for which reason it had, in November, made a demand to these companies to honor their debts, or the only option that they will have will be to disconnect them. And that's why we've seen GRIDCO take this action.
Happening. Well, for those who have not seen the statement, we're trying to put it up. I'd like for you to go through it, read word for word for us, Akable, what it actually says.
So the statement says the Ghana Grid Company Limited, GRIDCO, has today disconnected power supply to the Volta Aluminium Company Limited, VALCO, following failure of the company to settle over $30 million outstanding debt to the power transmitter. The decision was made by the management of GRIDCO after several attempts to get VALCO to honor its payment obligations failed. The decision to disconnect VALCO is part of ongoing debt collection measures to mobilize monies needed for the company's operations. And the chief executive officer is quoted as saying that we play a critical role in Ghana's power sector, and we need every resource available to us to continue delivering on our mandate to our key stakeholders and clients. VALCO's debts continue to mount and will create major problems for our operations if nothing is done about it. It goes on to say that we have been engaging the management of VALCO since the first half of this year to agree on a payment plan, but nothing has come out of it. We have been left with no option as our continuous state of affairs is unsustainable. We take the opportunity to entreat other customers indebted to GRIDCO to take steps to settle their debts.
Okay, so that's a statement that came in just a couple of hours back, and it's coming from GRIDCO. Well, what is government saying about this? Lateef Idris is the Energy Ministry, and there's been a reaction, a rather quick reaction to this breaking story. Joseph, I'll come back to you, but let's get on to the line and speak to Lateef Idris. Hello, Lateef. Well, Lateef has been talking to the PRO for the Energy Ministry. Listen.
Very much. We have been aware for a period now that GRIDCO has been having their own set of challenges, and they've been very vocal about it within the Ghanaian media space. We've also seen a situation where they have written to VALCO about the indebtedness over a period of time. I'm aware that on October 1st a letter was written. On November 1st as well, a letter was written threatening that by 30th of December, around 11 a.m., if they hadn't paid their debts, they were going to ensure that they were disconnected. That is exactly what has happened today, but the minister has intervened to ensure that some level of parity is brought to the discussion as well, in as much as GRIDCO has their challenges and they are rightfully due the amount of money that they are demanding from VALCO. VALCO also has its own peculiar set of challenges that the ministry is aware of, and so we have done a slight intervention to ensure that the ongoing discussions, which have been started for a while, are not brought to any acrimonious end unnecessarily. So we are hoping that we will be able to speed up the discussions between them and get to a permanent resolution of these matters as soon as possible.
Did VALCO make any attempt to at least pay part of their indebtedness to GRIDCO?
I wouldn't want to disclose that as at yet, but what I would say is that as at now, GRIDCO has agreed to restore power to VALCO, and the talks which have been ongoing will continue.
How soon are they restoring the power back to VALCO?
As we speak, it's already been restored.
So this could have been avoided?
GRIDCO also needed to send the necessary signals that they wanted to send through the system, that they were serious. Not that VALCO didn't also take them serious, but with this situation, it's a family fight in court, because both of them are agencies under the Ministry of Energy, and the Ministry of Energy is playing the fatherly role in ensuring that we are able to reconcile these two state agencies, knowing very well the challenges that both of them are facing. So we are continuing to ensure that we assist both of them to solve the problems and then resolve these matters permanently.
You just made a point about playing a fatherly role to ensure this will not get to acrimonious end. Is that to say that the father didn't intervene early enough?
I've already said that
to at least you could have prevented this disconnection in the first place.
I've already said that there were discussions ongoing that were started previously. That is one of the bases on which we have impressed upon GRIDCO, that they should tamper justice with mercy and ensure that they restore the power, which they have also been gracious enough to restore the power. So it's already ongoing, and as we move forward, you will continue to see a better end to this impasse, unfortunate impasse.
Is this also not sending a signal to other state agencies that you can default, you can, go indebted to GRIDCO, but once you get disconnected, you have the backing of the ministry coming in to bail you out to some extent?
I'm not sure. I think that the embarrassment of having been disconnected is a strong warning that other state agencies should also be wary of. Luckily for them, they are not directly customers of GRIDCO. So those who are customers of GRIDCO should be on the alert. Those who are also customers of ECG and NETCO should also be on the alert that the state agencies that are dealing in power supply in this country are very serious, and they're going to come after everybody that owes them to ensure that we're able to bring our national power assets to that level of financial comfort that we need. These are all part of a bigger plan. As you may be aware, there's an energy sector recovery plan, which is already underway. There's a steering committee that is ensuring that a lot of measures are being taken to bring the energy sector in general to financial stability and sustainability. So these measures will see a lot more in the year 2020, and I hope that this goes out to send the right signals to everybody to do the right thing.
There are other state agencies, institutions owing GRIDCO. Do you foresee some of these disconnections coming up fast?
I foresee not just GRIDCO, but NETCO and ACG all going ahead to undertake measures that will ensure that they are able to collect as much as they are owed so that they can achieve that financial stability and sustainability that I have already spoken about.
And you would allow them to do that?
I see no reason why that should not happen, because as we speak, GRIDCO, as you may be aware, has been in the news for quite some time now, complaining fervently about the fact that they are having financial challenges. And I do not think that it is in your interest or my interest or anybody else's interest that GRIDCO should suffer. And so GRIDCO would continue to take the measures that they can and should take to bring themselves to financial stability.
And so I ask whether the ministry will allow them, because if you intervene, like you've done in the case of VALCO, then others who...
VALCO is a special case. As I have said, this is a family issue. VALCO is a special case because both of them are agencies under the Ministry of Energy. So we are also very much aware of the peculiar challenges that VALCO is facing, which is why, and already before this disconnection, there were discussions underway on how to solve the problem. And we've brought both parties to the table before, and discussions were ongoing. However, other state institutions, other state agencies, individuals, private companies, if there are any issues, we would implore them to go and start talking to GRIDCO, ECG, NETCO from today, so that they begin to bring up their issues and come up with ways of resolving those problems before it is too late. Because you can be very sure that these bodies, NETCO, GRIDCO, ECG, will act in the coming year. They will act, and they will act with dispatch.
With dispatch?
Yes.
As part of the negotiation ongoing between GRIDCO and VALCO, can we say that there is a payment plan that has been proposed?
I wouldn't want to give out the details of those matters as yet. Like I have said, they are at the table, they are speaking to each other. The ministry is aware of the concerns of both of them, and will ensure that there will be a resolution in the shortest possible time.
Is VALCO in the position, from where it sits as the ministry, would you say VALCO is in the position to clear this $30 million United States dollars debt?
May I tell you what I've already said again, which is that we are aware of the peculiar problems that both GRIDCO and VALCO have. We are acting with dispatch to ensure that these problems are solved. We have both parties at the table. They are speaking to each other, and we'll continue to mediate to ensure that a permanent solution and resolution of these matters is reached.
So we don't expect this to come up again, this disconnection?
We have brought both parties to the table. They are continuing to talk to each other, and will ensure that a permanent resolution is reached.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A communications officer, Nana Mwade, speaking to my colleague Latif Idrisu. Latif Idrisu is on the line with me. Hello, Latif. Latif?
Hello?
Right. So, Latif, do tell us, we get the explanation that the Energy Ministry is giving. First of all, let's understand the timing within which the statement dropped and the timing within which the ministry called for this, put in this reaction.
Yeah, so Gifty, the Nana Damwa wouldn't say whether or not the ministry knew about GRIDCO's intention to, as it were, take VALCO off the national grid. The ministry wouldn't say. All they keep saying is that they've intervened, and now power has been restored back at VALCO, and discussions are underway. That is what he tells us, that VALCO and GRIDCO, as we speak, are in talks to ensure that this impasse is fixed, and that we do not have GRIDCO going back to take VALCO off the national grid. As to whether VALCO is in the position to clear this debt, the ministry says they are aware of the peculiar situation of VALCO, and so they wouldn't even say whether or not the company is in the position to clear its debt, or what the ministry is saying is that they've intervened and that talks are underway to ensure that this problem is fixed once and for all, Gifty.
So just a final one before you go, again, to just work out this curiosity that I have. I see a deliberate attempt not necessarily to answer the question that you put to him, but in your interactions with them at the ministry right now, is there the sense that the ministry is doing anything to get the state agencies that owe ECG to get to pay the debt, so ECG can then settle their debts to GRIDCO?
Exactly the case. So once again, he told us that this disconnection of VALCO is a wake-up call not only to VALCO but to other state institutions that are indebted to GRIDCO, NEDCO, and ECG, so that if you know you are owing these companies, now is the time for you to settle your debt. Otherwise, come 2020, these companies have the full backing of government and the ministry, for that matter, to go all out and disconnect all state institutions that are indebted and have not showed any sign of making payments. So in 2020, according to the energy ministry, we are going to experience a lot of disconnections of state institutions that are indebted to this power transmission companies, Gifty.
Very interesting one there. Latif, thank you for that update. Latif Idris there joining us from the Energy Ministry with that update. They've been reacting to the statement that we read to you earlier on about GRIDCO disconnecting power to VALCO. Joseph is still here. Joseph is on our energy desk. Joseph, it's very interesting. Latif says they are not commenting. The ministry is not commenting as to whether or not it knows anything, but pretty curious the timing within which everything happened. The release came around 12:30, thereabout.
And in some few minutes, we are told that they've moved in. And this is a story that is not new. Anytime we have GRIDCO threatening to disconnect the light, you always have government moving in. But the substantive question that remains unanswered is what happens to the $30 million that GRIDCO is demanding from VALCO. If the money is not being paid, or there's no plan to ensure that it gets paid, we are going to get back to this discussion once they connect the power, and after some few months they don't have the money in their accounts. And so that is a substantive question that we had expected some direct answers to as to when that money will be paid, but it seems we may have to wait a bit more.
From the Energy Ministry, and tie that in finally, Akable, tie that in with what's going to happen with the other agencies. Now we do know that government certainly owes ECG much more than anybody else.
And so these are largely the ministries, departments, and agencies. And that is why I found it interesting again that the Director of Communication makes the point that it's a wake-up call to the various ministries, departments, and agencies that owe.
It gets confusing, doesn't it?
It all boils back to government again. And so we know that there are is the finance minister controls the person in terms of the allocations to the various departments and agencies. And they also have the power to ensure that these MDAs stick to their finances to ensure that they honor the obligations to the various power players. The challenge here is that there are some of them that precedes government, more or less like legacy debts, and so they may be current in terms of their obligations, but there are some debts that are outstanding for years. And so it's the good news in what is coming from the Energy Ministry is that they are looking at a plan to ensure some financial stability within the sector.
I've heard about this plan before.
Many times, but we just expect it to be followed through to ensure that they deal with the legacy issues and ensure that they are current on payments to avoid this kind of instances that we find ourselves in. Well,
we'll see how that story goes. Well, that statement came in this afternoon. They cut power supply to VALCO. As we're speaking, we understand that the Energy Ministry has stepped in, and so power has been restored to VALCO. But like Joseph says, what happens to the $30 million that's been owed by VALCO to GRIDCO? What happens to the over $1 billion debt that is owed GRIDCO by other state agencies that have not been paid? GRIDCO says it is affecting their work. Essentially, it's affecting how consistent our power supply is going to be. We don't want power cuts in 2020, do we? We'll see how it goes. Joseph, thank you very much for coming through. Joseph Akable is on our energy desk.